Happy Monday. Here we go. It's my reminder telling me to go live. I'm already live. I'm on top of it today. How is everyone today? As you're jumping in, please let me know you're here. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what you did this weekend. How was the weather where you're at? It was really nice here. It still is really nice. We're actually going to have really relative term, right? Here we're going to be in like the high 40s, low 50s with sunshine, I think all week. Excuse me. So it'll be a good week to Michaela, my daughter, and I have made a promise to each other to go on some walks when I'm working from home, which obviously I'm not today, but that's our goal, to enjoy the weather before, who knows what's going to happen. Oh, San Diego, I'm jealous. What is it, like probably 72, right? Maybe 60s. But no, after the, couple weeks ago, we were in the negatives, and it's been just kind of brisk the last few weeks on and off. So a whole week of sunshine, and there's no snow in the forecast. There's still snow on the ground. I keep looking outside to see. But yeah, so how was everyone's weekend? What'd you guys do? Always got to give everyone a few minutes to jump in. I worked. It's tax season. I worked. But yesterday morning, we went and volunteered. We have at the Metro Provision Center, and we help them. We go, and it's hard because my kids are 11 and 12, and finding a place where kids that young can volunteer is tough, at least in Colorado. So we actually found this place with our Girl Scout troop to volunteer. So I took a couple Girl Scouts, and I took Maddox for the first time, and he had a lot of fun, and it was good. So yeah, let me just pull up. As you guys are jumping in, it's Q&A day, right? I have some updates to share with you guys, but first and foremost is always y'all's questions. So make sure you're putting those in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook, in the little description, there should be a place where it looks like I'm pointing at Lindsay, but I'm not. There should be a place where you can give StreamYard access to your name, just so I know who you are when you post your comments and your questions. Otherwise, you just show up as Facebook user. Which is totally fine too. But let me just get a few things up here for you guys there we go. Here we go. Okay. So as you guys are coming up with your questions, kind of putting those in there, I do want to talk just briefly about the updates. Hi, Jula. About what's going on in the last week. Holy moly. So a week ago today, President Biden came out with so let me back up. So I have a little group of CPAs, and it's me, it's Jamie Troll, for those of you that come from Jamie's group, Hannah, I always say your last name wrong, Solminski, don't know her last name, and Kelly. And we spent so much time debating, like, were these executive orders? Were, like, nobody called them executive orders, but then how does President Biden, that's the only, anyway, we're not politicians. We're just accountants. So we're just gonna, we don't care what it's called. But a week ago, he came out with a few big things. So I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to jump into what the House passed this weekend and what that entails. It is with the Senate now. I jumped in right before I got on here with you guys, just to make sure they hadn't passed anything. And I will give you guys a little insight into what I think will pass and what I think might get dropped from there. So we'll do a little bit on that. And then, of course, as you guys have questions, we'll include those as well. All right. So let's talk about what Biden passed a week ago today. So the biggest thing for you guys, because most of you guys in here are business owners, or you're thinking about starting a business, there's very few of you in here that watch this that aren't from my business, from my money, tax, and finance group. So most of you guys are a business. So the biggest thing, I'm so sorry, I have like a frog in my throat all of a sudden. The biggest thing from Biden's executive orders from last Monday was that he made changes to the PPP program, you guys. And what's important to note is that these were changes that he made to the PPP program that's already in place. All right. So quick, you go back to the CARES Act of March, we passed PPP. Then we jump forward to December of 2020 and we reopened PPP with a few new rules and a few new guidelines. And then, but still a lot of the rules were the same the second time around. Like if you were getting a first round PPP in January, it was the same. It was mostly the same as if you were getting a first round back in March. Okay. So a lot of the things, the timelines, things hadn't changed. However, some things have. But the biggest thing for Biden, from what Biden said last Monday, I keep questioning that because everything's a blur. But from last Monday is that he said that starting Wednesday, February 24th, for a 2-week period, only businesses with 20 employees or less, including those of you that are self-employed, could apply for the program. So basically what they were doing for 2 weeks, starting on Wednesday, February 24th, is closing it off to businesses with more than 20 employees for a 2-week period. All right. So that 2-week period, let's take a look at a calendar, shall we? So, well, it's going to be next Wednesday. So next Wednesday, March 10th. So if you have more than 20 employees, that's when you can go back to applying for a PPP loan. Keeping in mind that this PPP program is supposed to close March 31st. So if you've been on the fence about getting money, whether it's your first round or your second round, or you've been dragging your feet because, life is happening and other things are happening, but you got to make a decision because it is March 1st today. So we are in the last month of the PPP program. All right. So the biggest thing, first of all, was that 2-week period of having it only open to 20 employees or less. How were banks able to implement that? I don't know, not in the banking world. But that was an area we were very, very curious to kind of see how it played out. Let's see, whatever. Oh, the other big thing, you guys, is for those of you that are self-employed. So if you are a single member LLC, a sole prop, anyone whose business is reported on your Schedule C, right? So for the last year, we've been telling you Schedule C line 31, Schedule C line 31, right? Because that's your net profit from your business. And that is what the number that was used for your PPP loan. Well, Biden, his guidance last week said that he was going to change this to be gross receipts. No details, no idea, you guys, how they're going to change it, if they're going to, no idea. It'll still be maxed out though, guys, at $20,833 for a self-employed employee. That's your loan amount of 2.5 months if you make $100,000. So that max won't change. But for anyone under that, it means you could be eligible for more money. All right. And for a lot of people, what that means is originally you looked at applying for a PPP, you saw that it was going to be a very small amount because your net profit wasn't very much. Your Schedule C line 31 wasn't a significant amount. And now we're finding out that if you can use your gross receipts, well, maybe that number is significant and something that can actually help you and is worthwhile to do. That's all I have right now, you guys. There's no details on how this changed, when it's going to, nothing yet, at least not as of this morning. So as soon as we get details, I will absolutely share them with you. But that was, the other big thing from Biden's speech. We'll call it Biden's speech last Monday. There were a few other things, not necessarily maybe applies to y'all or not, but things that I got from talking to Jamie. And it's that if you've defaulted on student loan debt, you can now get a PPP. And you're probably saying, wait, what is this? So there is a questionnaire on your PPP application that says, have you ever had a government loan and defaulted on it? And when I read it, I immediately was like thinking about my business, right? And I'm like, no, not thinking that student loans are government loans. All right. And last year, a lot of people were defaulting on those. Okay. So, and that default on student loan debt was keeping those people from getting a PPP loan. They've squashed that. They've gotten rid of that. There's also a provision that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? If you had, you were automatically disqualified. They've backed that up as well. And now it's only unless you've been convicted of a felony that is fraud related. Makes sense, right? And then they did on legal residents who are citizens and saying that, yes, you can apply for a PPP using your I-10. All right. So that are the highlights from Biden's February 22nd, last Monday speech, right? Let's fast forward. Fast forward to Saturday morning at 2 a.m. when the House passed Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus bill. All right. We've been hearing about this stimulus bill for probably about a month. Okay. And we're not going to get into a lot of those details because actually I'll get into the big details and then I'll tell you what I think is going to stick and what might not stick. Okay. So this new stimulus plan, not really business oriented, and I will circle back around to what is in it for businesses, but there's three huge pieces of this $1.9 trillion bill that are being talked about over and over and over again. Okay, the first is $1,400 relief payments. So last year we got $600 per taxpayer or dependent, like in March, right? No, we got $1,200 per taxpayers, $600 per dependent. Oh my gosh, yeah. Then in December they did it again, and they said $600 per person, right? And now this new plan would send $1,400 payments to most Americans. What I'm hearing, so that's in addition to these other ones. Okay, so it's a third stimulus. Okay, so $1,200 last March, $600, generally speaking, $600 last December or this past December, and now we're talking $1,400. All right. There are phase outs that are being talked about. Okay, income limit thresholds, right? So let's see. And I was just reading all this morning because I don't like to read a lot of these things until it at least passes one side or the other because it changes so much. So phase out's going to be $75,000, $150,000 if you're married. The thing that I was still waiting that I hadn't read yet, and it's probably in there, is does it cover everybody? Because if you guys remember back to March of last year, there was a group of like college age kids, like if you're over 17, but still a dependent, you got lost in the shuffle. Your parents didn't get money for you. You didn't get money for yourself. So that those taxpayers got lost. I believe that when this was originally proposed, that was taken care of, that everybody was going to be covered. Once it actually passes, are there going to be changes that get rid of it? We don't know. But for now, it was going to cover everybody. All right, so that's great. Let's see. So your stimulus payments, unemployment benefits, and this is why they're in a rush. The unemployment is why they are in a rush to get this signed by, I believe it's March 14th, because that is when the current unemployment benefits run out. All right. So the House bill that passed is a temporary extension of those benefits that have passed. I think they passed in the original CARES Act, and that's those additional $300 to $400 federal benefits per week. All right. So that's the second big thing. I'm just trying to make sure I'm covering everything I want to, just by covering the highlights. And then they are a big piece of that $1.9 trillion is aid to cities and states, and specifically schools. There's another piece of this that I don't think is going to stick. So all those things I just said, I'm guessing they're not areas of contention right now. All right. Between the Republicans and the Democrats. But one thing that the House stuck in here that I can justify saying this is COVID related or is COVID relief, but it's a stretch, and that is raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Okay. That was stuck in there, I believe. So where it is right now, you guys, House passed it. House is majority Democrat. Okay. It is now with the Senate. The Senate is 50-50 split. If there's a tie, which there's probably going to be ties all the time, then the vice president breaks the tie. But you would much rather make if there's some small changes you can make to pull some of the other side over to avoid having the vice president break the tie, that's better, right? And I believe that $15 minimum wage is going to be thrown out as part of appealing to some of the Republicans in the Senate. So those are the big pieces in terms of like what people are talking about with this new plan. But what you'll notice is I didn't talk about businesses. The big pieces of this bill they don't include a lot of business stuff. So let's talk about what is included though for our businesses, because there are things in here. So this is called the American Rescue Plan Act. And honestly, the $15 an hour minimum wage technically would affect a lot of my business owners, or some of my business owners out there, right? But not in the way that we need help. Okay. So what is out there to help small business owners? Excuse me. So there's more money for EIDL advance payments. Remember, those advances were those grants, but these are targeted EIDL loan advances. Targeted meaning they are targeted to lower income areas. Okay. This is a change they made in the December bill that they passed, and they're just funding it with $15 billion more dollars. There is $25 billion for restaurants, bars, and eligible providers of food and drink. In what capacity? We got to figure that out. And there is $1.25 billion for shuttered venue operators. All right. And we know back from the December bill that there was a shuttered venue grant. So I'm guessing they're funding another $1.25 billion to that. They're allocating money to the airline industry, air carriers, and contractors airlines in the airline industry. Big thing, PPP, right? What about PPP? So within this, it doesn't look like there'll be a third round of PPP. All right. Because the biggest part of that is because the funding from the December edition of PPP is still out there, you guys. Let me look. I pulled the numbers. About half of the $284 billion that they allocated to PPP in December is still available, and it closes March 31st. So that's why they didn't fund a lot more money into this. Okay. Because we haven't used what's out there. Okay. This act does open it up to more nonprofits, but I know there's not a lot of those that follow me here, so FYI. And let's see, PPP funding. Oh, and then support for restaurants. Definitely, if you're in the restaurant industry, there is a $25 billion, it's called the RRF, Restaurant Revitalization Fund. So we definitely want to keep an eye on that. All right, because these are going to be grants for restaurants. All right, so if you're in the food and drink industry, pay attention. All right, you care. And like I said, the targeted EIDL advances, which are for specifically lower income businesses or areas. Okay, so great. So we have some questions. So Cheryl had asked any new info on PPP. I gave you what I had. If you have specific questions, definitely let me know. But where we were on PPP, you guys, is with the December with the December laws, the economic, I can't remember, the EAA, they expanded. So if you never got a PPP, you could now get a first round PPP. If you did get a first round, you could now get a second round, but you did have to qualify. You had to show a 25% decrease in receipts. And then Biden last week, like I said, expanded, but he changed the rules for my self-employed individuals. If you're a Schedule C business, saying that if you are applying for a PPP, you can now use your gross receipts instead of your net from line 31. That's a big thing. It doesn't sound like it's going to be effective retroactively. Could change, but we'll keep an eye on that. All right. Paula says, does the employee retention credit reduce the expenses that employers could deduct on its federal income tax return? I'm pretty sure no. The last time we checked, they specifically had said that no, the answer is no. Everything that was covered under the CARES Act, you guys, so employee retention credits, PPP, forgivable amounts of PPP loans, EIDL advances. And for those of you that already had SBA loans, part of the CARES Act was they'll pay, the SBA is paying your SBA loan for 6 months and then a potential additional 3. Those SBA paid SBA loans, are also tax-free. I had to make sure I said that. So as of right now, everything that's covered specifically under these federal acts has been deemed tax-free money, tax-free income, and you can fully deduct the expenses. Okay. That said, the employee retention credit, that's actually going to reduce. There's a better way for me to explain that. Because now that, of course, now my wheels are turning, that even though it's one of those things that I specifically read things, but then I, as the tax accountant, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know if that's necessarily the way it should be interpreted. So let me come back to that one, just to make sure I'm saying things in the right way. Julia says, are you consulting for the ERTC? I am not right now because it's tax season. I wanted to. I would love to help you guys, and I just can't. We bounced it around. We also bounced around, like, can I still be making PPP consultations? And just for this following couple of, we have 7 weeks left, I think, just can't. That said, Jamie Troll has a friend who is doing ERTC credit consults. And so I have her information. I will share it in the group for sure, because I've met with her and she's awesome. And Jamie was trying long and hard to find someone because she's getting so many people who need those consultations. For those of you, ERTC, if you're late to the game, so that's Employee Retention Tax Credit. And the reason we haven't done a lot of talking about that is because back when the CARES Act was passed, back in March, a year ago, you guys, a year ago. So a year ago when CARES Act was passed, it did include the ERTC. But at the time, it said you can get the ERTC or the PPP loan. You couldn't do both. And the PPP was, for most employers, more advantageous. Okay. So that's where we focused. That's where we focused our advising, our guidance, all the things. Well, then when the guidance in December passed, they said, oh, just kidding. You can do both. As long as you're not spending the same money, you're not spending, using the same expenses to qualify for both. Meaning, right, if I said under my PPP, okay, I paid all of my July wages with my PPP, I could not then use those same wages to get an employee retention credit. All right. And that part, you guys, is where it's going to get complicated. Okay. If you didn't get a PPP, or let's just go with, if you didn't get a PPP and you're looking into the ERTC, it shouldn't be too difficult. And your payroll company should actually be able to process some reports for you to help you with this and help you take care of this. The ERTC is a credit. You guys mean dollar for dollar. So it's not a deduction, it's a credit, okay? And it's taken on your payroll reports, all right? So next question, if you don't have employees, can you take it? No, you have to have employees to take the ERTC. Excuse me. But it's a credit you take against your payroll. So let's, you run your 941, your quarterly payroll for the quarter, and normally you'd owe, $9,000, but you find out with this credit, you earn a $4,000 credit, then you're only paying $5,000 into your payroll taxes. Okay. So figuring out if you qualify is the first step. And I think that's something that all of you guys can do as a business owner. So if you have employees, rules are different for 2020 and 2021, and that's also where it kind of gets complicated. In 2020, you have to show a 50% decrease in receipts for a quarter, for a calendar quarter, okay, compared to the year before. For 2021, it's easier, and we're not even done with first quarter, right? First quarter ends March 31st, but as of then, you guys, if you March 31st and you file your financials and you see that receipts were down only 20% in 2021 for quarters 1 and 2. Those are the only quarters they've passed so far. We'll see. Doesn't look like they're going to extend it, but we've seen crazier things. So 2021, you only have to show a 20% decrease, but 2020, if you want to go back and look, you have to show a 50% decrease. And then how long you can take it, for how many quarters, that changes. For 2020, the quarter you have a 50% decrease, that's the first quarter you qualify. You can qualify for all quarters after that up until you replace your income back to, I believe it's 70%. I can't remember that exact number. And this credit, you guys, is for 50% of each employee's wages up to a $5,000 credit for the quarter. Okay, so if you pay a specific employee $10,000 or more in a given quarter, okay, then you're limited to a $5,000 credit. If you pay them less, then it's just 50% of what their wages were for the year. So it's then for the quarter. So what they're doing, you guys, is they're giving you a credit for half of your employees' wages for that quarter. So it can be really substantial, especially if you're in the restaurant industry and you still had your clients or your employees working for you. Or if you're in any sort of industry where you have a number of employees, it could be a substantial amount of money. All right. Let's see. All right. I don't see any more questions. All right. Looks good. I don't see anything else. So I just, public service announcement. You guys notice trainings have been put on hold. My 9 o'clock trainings have been put on hold till after tax season. Ooh, one more question. Let's answer this one. It's from Paula. You can't tell. I have Facebook open, so I can. She says, Schedule C employers with employees that already got a second PPP. Question, employer based on line 31, now based on gross pay, can resubmit for a higher amount? We don't know yet, Paula. It doesn't sound like they're going to let people resubmit, which is unfortunate. Let's use that word. It's unfortunate. And it sucks for the people that did it on time and were responsible and needed the money and did it, but again, things could change. But for now, it doesn't look like they're going to let people resubmit. It's only for new applications. And I will, of course, check with Jamie to see if she's found out anything new. But as of when I talked to her last on Friday, I think it was, nothing had changed. So, okay. So that's that. You guys, I will be back here hopefully next week. Tax season just gets kind of crazy. Like I said, we have 7 weeks left. I will, at the very least, show up here every other week for you guys. I think what I'll probably base base it on is our RSVPs in the Facebook group. All right. If I have a large number of RSVPs, I'll keep going weekly. If we schedule it and there's not a whole lot of people, I'll probably move it to every other week, with the exception of I will of course come in here if there's an update. If this bill actually does pass, I will be here to talk to you guys and update you on things. But in terms of being able to show up for you guys, I want to make sure that I'm still showing up for y'all, but that I'm still making sure I, handle my clients that are coming in. So, all right, you guys have a fantastic week. I'm going to go, I have an audit I'm working on. Isn't that terrible? An audit during tax season. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but just know that that's just that's very sad. So anyway, wish me luck. Wish me, let me finish that today, hopefully, so I can get back to taxes because that's what I like. But I will see you guys hopefully next week. If not, I will see you in 2 weeks. All right, guys. Bye.